Chris with a K here, Horns Down Podcast. Got Jason. You got him from the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast with the coach. Shout out to the coach. Then you got Mr. Mason, Sooners 360 himself. Guys, we are back. Not for a long time, but for a good time. We got some recruiting stuff to talk about, some other OU stuff to talk about. It's the holidays. Happy 4th of July to everyone. Be safe out there traveling and messing with the fireworks and all the rest of that stuff, but have the most fun. We got us a 3-day weekend, and then things start getting real, people. We got I'm sure Big 12 Media Days is probably next week. They like to be first and foremost, right? But then you got SEC Media Days rolling in. July 15th is when BV will take the stand. So that's the big day, kind of set the tone, see what who all is going to be going with him player-wise and all the rest of that stuff. But, man, some exciting times. It's going to get real because once we start having those, SEC media, once Media Days start happening, that means that, it's no longer just, individuals and working out with Smitty. It's also a little bit of install, a little bit of this, a little bit of that's going on. And then, boom, August rolls around and it's time for fall camp. So, guys, we're locked and loaded, and hopefully you will stay locked and loaded with us and be here with us on the pod. So we are going to jump straight into some recruiting. I want to say, Chris Mason, go ahead.
Well, not OU recruiting, but I have to have a little chuckle over the fact that Texas lean 5-star elite tackle, number one player in Texas. Texas's response to OU getting Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje and not getting Lamont Rogers and not getting the Haywood kid is apparently choosing Texas Tech tomorrow. He's pulling the Longhorn. He's pulling, basically doing like Lucy and Peanuts and just swiping the football away. And Longhorn fans are just
swiping. That's the second time in 3 years if that happens.
So this was the guy this was the explanation. We didn't get Fasusi, we're getting Ojo. Now, I thought Ohio State was probably going to put the most money up, and that would be the biggest competitor. But it's just crazy. If Texas Tech can beat Texas for a kid at the 11th hour, I mean, let's just say it. I mean, Kelvin Banks just got drafted in the first round. They've had the best offensive line play the last 2 years they've had in 20 years. And it just doesn't matter. Ojo apparently is going to go to Texas Tech. The double eagle has struck again. I shouldn't laugh over Texas Tech doing this because they could do this to us next year with a player maybe, but it's pretty damn funny right now based upon the strutting Texas has been doing, pretty much all off season.
I have one question before Jason goes. It's simply this right here. Excuse me, very Orange Blood-esque, right? Texas fans, as you come in here, Bevo's bodyguard, Ben G, any Texas fans, quick question for you. Are you broke? That's all I have to ask. Please answer that. I'll take you off the air.
So, that's the thing. All those Lamborghinis that were at DKR last week or 2 weeks ago, and all the shit that they've been talking on Orange Bloods. And hey, and I hadn't even said, I've been forgetting to say this on the air, but I got kicked out of Orange Bloods and I barely said anything to the dude. It was weak. It was the weakest thing ever. I mean, we put up with this crap from Bevo's bodyguard and all those dudes like on the daily on my show. So I laughed and laughed. But hey, apparently they're getting a little pissy with him there, with old Ketch there in Austin too, because apparently he's been calling this. Look, for all the crap he's been talking, for all the crap everybody's been talking about how Oklahoma doesn't recruit like the rest of them, blah, 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 blah. I don't know, man. I don't know. This is weird to me that you can, how do you lose? You're not even losing them to Aggie or OU. You're losing them to Tech.
Or Ohio State or LSU or Alabama or Michigan. Somebody respectable. You just lost them to Texas Tech. So it's crazy. It's crazy. But let's roll back to positive Sooner stuff or negative Sooner stuff, as the case may be. So Braden Presley chose OSU today. I kind of been predicting that, I think, forever on this podcast. I'd like to say that I never thought OU was getting him. Just because, Agent Orange, once it's in your family and in your blood, it's tough to inoculate you from that Aggie disease. But it looks like in this case that if you're asking why did Braden Presley choose Oklahoma State, the answer is because OU feels like they're going to get Jacob Eberhardt, the Missouri safety, and they feel like Eberhardt is a better player and a better fit for the OU scheme. He also has a little Presley wants to play corner. I think OU thinks he's more of a safety, and they're going to let him try corner. Our corner and safety positions are pretty loaded, so I wonder if Eberhardt
might be suited for Okie Light, isn't he?
Sorry?
Isn't he just better suited for Okie Light?
I watched his film. He's a good athlete. I mean, I'm sure OU could find something to do with him, sure. But, but when you look at our safety room, I mean, I think we're basically just promoting, we're basically allowing, we're accelerating his path to Oklahoma State. We could sign him just to annoy Oklahoma State. And then after a year where he's 8th string at safety, he would just go in the portal and end up at Oklahoma State anyway. So really, the OU staff just did Presley a favor.
Feels like if they want him, they can wait the 2 years until he's ready to play, and then they can go get him.
If they need to. When you think about what Brandon Hall's doing in the safety room,
it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like a place of need.
Yeah, you look at Reggie Powers in that photo this week. We know Boganowski's ridiculous. Jaden Hardy.
Powers. Reggie Powers is apparently just.
Powers looks like I don't know what rhino steroids he's taking.
Cyborg.
He just looks ridiculous. So, this wasn't a big position of need for OU this year, and if they get the Eberhardt kid, he has some flexibility. Maybe he could be a will linebacker. He's got a big frame. He's a big guy. So you could maybe move him to will linebacker if you wanted to down the road. That would be something that would make sense to me if I was OU. But, Presley chose OSU, and Taj Overton and Caden Jones and Presley were all like, oh, Oklahoma State's on the rise. I'm like, okay, well, have fun in the Big 12. I don't know who your coach is going to be, but have fun in the Big 12. So, and these are guys OU is I hate to say this, but for lack of a better term, they're just choosing not to compete with. It's like, okay.
But, the money is real. The money is real because they've been sending more money that way to these other guys. And well, from what I was hearing, apparently they're already like going against the Deloitte thing in Stillwater, whatever, so
yeah,
we'll see. But, oh, look, poor old Bevo. Look at him. In shambles.
Have OU fans been? I think OU fans are all over recruiting. I don't think a single one of them is saying recruiting doesn't matter. That's not my.
Just Bevo's a dumbass.
That's my viewpoint. So
he eats chips, bro. He eats paid chips.
Okay, so that's Braden Presley done. Like I said, I think I told you guys last week OU wasn't getting him, and I think I told you, for the last couple of weeks. So moving forward, July 11th, July 7th, Tyler Ruxer is making a decision. The tight end from Indiana, 6'4", 6'5". 220, 225, had nearly 900 yards receiving last year. Really good tight end. Ryder Mix, when he was on his OU visit, is just taller, bigger, faster. So OU's very close to getting 2 4-star composite tight ends, real tight ends who play the tight end position, who know what they're doing, who with enrollment early could easily be players, early contributors to OU. The tight end room is painstakingly close to getting an upgrade. And I know that doesn't sound possible, but that's where we are. Also on July 7th, Braxton Lindsey, the linebacker from Arkansas, it will probably be choosing BYU unless something drastic changes. And everyone asks, why is OU losing a linebacker to BYU? Why is Oregon losing a quarterback to BYU? Why is everyone in the nation losing a tight end to BYU? Because first off, the families are, Church of Latter-day Saints. Hard to recruit against that against the Mormons from that situation, and they're spending. Topher B's right. Is it possible? And Topher B 2027 looks like we could see 2 4-star tight ends again. It would be. I'm not sure we can process that. But Braxton Lindsey's choosing BYU. BYU's paying kids right now. They are. Just like some of the other mid-level programs are losing recruits to. And we'll talk a little bit about strategy-wise what I think Nagy needs to absorb from what's going on. But they're going to lose unless something changes drastically. Braxton Lindsey is going to choose BYU. That's a blow. I think OU needs 3 linebackers in the class. Don't need just 2. They need 3. And then on the 11th, Jordan Clay is going to pick either Colorado, Baylor, or OU. And I'm not really sure which one it's going to be. We just lost Jason. Oh, Jason has a good rest of his evening and a good show in the morning if he's having one. But Chris, Jordan Clay it's an OU Baylor battle, and I think it's 50. It was like 55-45 Baylor. It's now 50-50. This is a toss-up. He could really choose any of those 2 players, depending upon what happens.
How long do you see him kind of, waiting to make a decision?
I think we'll get a leak right before signing day. Right before his decision. Right now, the trend has been OU's moving up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the recent trend, but we'll see what happens. If you force me to say, Chris, you have to make a choice right now, based upon the data that's out there, I would say OU.
He's a kid that could be kind of maybe he commits to Baylor, maybe he commits to OU. Both staffs are kind of a little bit under fire, obviously. As far as if you want to talk about BV being on the hot seat, you kind of have to talk about, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank with the coach's name out there, but
Aranda.
Aranda. So Aranda's kind of on the hot seat as well. A lot of people didn't think that he was going to make it out this year at Baylor, but he did. So, that's kind of the thing is that, it's one of those things where that may be one where that kid kind of tries to figure out what's going on. If he has a hell of a season, maybe you're ended up in a battle with somebody like Texas Tech who's trying to go and, strike gold everywhere, right? Come with a crazy late offer. But he may be a kid that you wrap up pretty early.
I think either way, both of those staffs are going to realize that it's close. It's very close. And if you get the verbal commitment now, you're going to be fighting. Either program slips a little bit, the other program will be ready to pounce. So, but that's Jordan Clay. Then Zach Turner was choosing Oklahoma. Then Miami went over the top with a big offer. And now SMU is going over the top with a bigger offer. So it looks like he's going to go to SMU. Duncanville recruiting once again is a snake pit of who knows what. His teammate KJ Ford is also going to make a verbal commitment on the 12th, I believe, and that's between Ohio State. Is it Texas? It's not. OU's not in it. He's got a top 3, and OU's not in that top 3. Let me pull it up real quick. I'll find out where it is. KJ Ford. Yeah. All right. And he's choosing between the Gators, Ohio State, and A&M. If I had to guess, I would say that this is probably going to be, I would guess A&M right now. If OU can get back to that, hey, Jimmy Satterfield, I'm happy to see you in here. I would say A&M. Could OU roll back to him? Maybe, but I think OU might be full at the defensive end spot. So on the 12th, Jacob Eberhardt announces that should be OU. So I think they'll get Ruxer and Eberhardt in the neck between that time frame. They could get Clay as well. We're still waiting on a decision date from Davion Gross. That's not been set. Jake Krull looks like he's taking this into the fall. Topher B says he likes KJ Ford to choose Florida. Well, that would make a lot of sense. If we don't want him and we want to get Krull, that would make sense. DeAnthony Lafayette appears to be down to OU and LSU. LSU just got a big-time defensive end, Trenton Henderson. So I think there's a chance that OU could win that battle, but we'll see. LSU certainly, needs to add defensive talent, across the board with the defense they've been putting out the last couple of years. So I don't know where he is on their board and how many guys they can take. OU again has Daniel Norman and Matthew Nelson already at defensive end, so they would obviously they'll flex to 4 for Krull. I'm just not sure if they'll flex to 4 for DeAnthony Lafayette or KJ Ford if he decides to visit OU for the Michigan game, which is
that's gonna be a hard conversation to have with my uncle. He is Krull and Lafayette are his those are the two kids that he's like, those are musts.
I think it just depends how it falls and what else OU needs. If OU doesn't roll back and get a third linebacker, do you take that spot and get a 4th defensive end if it's Lafayette and Crew? Possibly. So, and then 2 of the defensive tackles, I'm not sure OU is going to get either of these guys, but I think they have a better shot at the second one. Elijah Golden's going to announce on 7/26. That is looking like a Notre Dame win, has for a little while.
That name sounds like a Notre Dame type of guy, right?
Yeah. What's his nickname? Dome, right?
Yeah.
So a good guy. Like him on film a lot, but he hasn't been. It looks like Notre Dame's going to win that. Notre Dame's on a hot streak in recruiting. Everyone's asking why, and why is Notre Dame doing so well? The last 2 seasons they've been extremely successful. That's why,
not only that, but this is typical of Notre Dame. But you also got to understand Notre Dame's going to lose some kids too. They're going to lose some kids out of that class.
They lost Deuce Knight last year.
Yeah, so
they still have academic restrictions going on. So in terms of who they can bring in, but they're doing a good job, and they took a gamble on their coach. It's paying off for them. I still think they're outside speed away from truly being able to win a national championship. And I still don't see that in their class. Their running backs are very good. The rest of their class, their defensive class at linebacker and D-line is very good. They've done a good job recruiting in the secondary and developing guys. So, Notre Dame's doing what they need to do. Then the next guy is Teron Richardson, and he's choosing August 26th. That's so far out. I have no idea what OU is going to do. There's been his father passed away, I think last year, so there's some sense that he wants to stay closer to home. I certainly can understand that. Those family considerations. But looks like OU may be making a move there to try and get Teron Richardson, and then you'd have 2 tackles for the class, and you'd just have to figure something out in the fall for a third guy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it is. That's everybody who visited in June that is currently not committed is committed elsewhere or committed to OU. So that's every name that I can think of that OU is still involved with. And I could certainly talk about some 2027 guys if you want. I know we're getting some 2027 questions getting firmed up.
I was going to say, let's talk about what Topher B said and then what Boomer Halen said. Then we'll go transition into some of the Nagy stuff that you want to talk about because we got 2 comments about that as well. So Topher B's comment first.
Yeah, so Topher, I think OU needs to get at least 2 guys in from a development standpoint so they can start building that depth and building those guys up. Todd Bates does a good job building up. You give him the raw materials, he'll develop it into defensive tackles. So we need 2 of those guys. We've got Brian Harris. We need a second guy. And then, from a dollar standpoint, OU needs to be prepared to give everything to Jalen Brewster. They have a big lead. OU offered him before anybody else when he was still playing fullback and defensive end. So I think there's a strategy there. They have offered 2 recent guys at defensive tackle. One is, let me pull up the name here. It's fireworks season already in Atlanta. One is Carlos May from Birmingham, Alabama. OU's got kind of an early jump on him. Bates has some connections there. Then they offered Caden Fife from Chattanooga. He's a top 150 kid. Really seems to like OU. So they got some names there. They've obviously got the for 2027 the Graves kid from Oklahoma, from Tulsa, who's going to IMG. Will be somebody to track. There's some other names in Texas that are interesting. They just recently offered. So, I think, Brewster is your superstar. Get him and then get a couple of depth guys, right? Don't worry about where else, because Brewster is basically David Stone. He's David Stone again. So, Boomer Halen, Zane Rowe. So this is my thought on Zane Rowe. He decommitted from OU. He's looking at lots of other schools, but he's always keeping connections with OU going. So if OU has a good season this fall, Miguel Chavis will land Zane Rowe. He'll be part of this class. He'll be one of the defensive ends that OU gets. That's what I've always felt about Zane Rowe. If OU is not doing well, and that means staff turnover and who knows what else, then they're going to have a hard time landing Zane Rowe. He wants to play at a program that's moving in the right directions. But I think if OU has a good season, which is a good season by R. Mason Thomas, good season by PJ, good season by Taylor Wine, it's
JJ. I mean, the list goes on. Okoye, got to show
Okoye. So OU's got depth at defensive end. Could that hurt them? Maybe. But I think Zane, once those guys are, R. Mason Thomas, probably a fringe first round, early second round pick with his pass rush skills, depending upon how the things shake out and the season shakes out. Mm-hmm. MJJ could have a good season at OU and then be a second or third round pick. All these things will help. OU's been doing a lot of the D-line recruiting without NFL guys to play off of, right?
Yeah.
Now we may see in the next couple of years, Grayson Holton, if he has a big season, has a chance to be a second, third round pick. Pass rushing defensive tackles go high. So this has this potential for, as good as recruiting as Chavis and Bates have been doing, there's almost another gear if they start putting guys consistently as early round picks.
Here's the thing is that Reggie Grimes, Ethan Downs, guys like that, and they've been very serviceable and got to commend them and all the rest of this stuff. But now here's an opportunity with guys who have higher ceilings, in my opinion, than what those two did, what you started with, right? Even like a Jeffrey Johnson, you didn't have all the time that you wanted with him. You were able to do a lot of stuff with the kid from Tennessee that you got to come here. You had the kid from Wake Forest as well. You got a lot out of those guys, but now you have high ceiling guys that are going to be able to be in the program for a year or two, maybe 3 years, and you're able to, to do something with them. And so, a guy like Marvin Jones Jr., the talent with the development, that's where it's really going to be at. So as long as we can get a threat, whenever they're trying to, run double teams or run some type of mini game with R. Mason Thomas, that other side should be deadly. But rolling into these other questions about Nagy, we got a couple of things we're going to get in here. So wheels and levers, he says, given that we're primarily recruiting against SMU, Texas Tech, and Baylor rather than Texas, LSU and Georgia, it's hard to like Nagy's strategy. Go over here and you got Keith Shatley. He says OU is going to end up with a higher recruiting class than expected, with these kids having a senior year to play. Nagy's a real deal. when we win in 2025, recruiting. When we win in 2025, recruiting will get much easier. Then we skip down here. Where is that comment? Is it? Man, I had one more comment that was about him. Let's see. Either way, I think those two comments right there pretty much encompass everything. It's kind of one of those things, Mr. Mason. Where are you at? Which side are you on with Nagy? Like, where are you wanting to go with this with Nagy?
Well, I think, so if you roll back to the other comment, so the one about Texas Tech and this nonsense, I'm not sure who we actually lost to Texas Tech. If you want to count Ojo, I guess you can. Baylor, I mean, really technically lost anyone to Baylor in this class. Yeah, really. SMU, SMU has been throwing money around, got a very high level. They're leveraging their playoff win. They're leveraging the fact they're in the ACC. OU is not willing to compete for some of the guys that they're willing to spend more on. I think so first off, this is Nagy's first recruiting season, right? This is the first season. He's midway through it. He's walking in midway through the door. So he's trying to set value and dollar numbers to players. And he's clear about that. If you saw the KTLU interview snippet they had, that was clearly what he's saying. I'm assigning values. I'm assigning money slots for players. And this is real. This is actual. This is not fantasy money. This isn't fantasy evaluation. This is what my 45 years of experience on my staff is doing. And then the comment that he made that kind of confused people was he said, if he has two guys visiting and they are both 5 stars by the OU, that the star ranking system is kind of flawed. It's not something he's really paying any attention to whatsoever. And he says that they bring in 2 guys that, according to them, are in their system are 5 stars. Just use the same terminology, okay? And one is one you're competing with Ohio State, Texas, and Michigan, and the dollar number is 4x, right? The other one you have ranked the exact same level in terms of potential and everything else, and you're going to you're going to choose to spend your money on that guy rather than competing with LSU, Ohio State, Texas and get lost in that battle of dollars, right? If you think you can get the same player for $100K versus $700K, or even more if the bidding gets high, well, what makes more sense? It makes more sense to go with the $100K guy that you've evaluated and said is better. Now, obviously, those evaluations are going to hit. Our staff has got to develop those kids, but that's what he's trying to say. He's not saying that if a kid comes in and the OU staff thinks he's high on their list, the recruiting services say they're high on his list, and Nagy says, yeah, I think this guy is unbelievable, we're going to move our chips in on that guy, right? If the guy is an unreal talent and it takes us moving the chips in by having saved the salary cap number on the other kid, where they felt like the 3-star, according to Rivals, is a 5-star by Nagy, you save that $600K in that recruiting battle. It gives you funds to go win the Jalen Brewster battle, to use an example, right?
So Wheels and Levers, he comes back, he says, it's not that we've lost guys to Baylor. We're recruiting the same level of player as Baylor. If Nagy was a high talent, a high-level NFL talent evaluator, he'd still be in the NFL. He left. Look,
okay. He had the Jets general manager job locked up. He chose the OU general manager job instead. He didn't leave the NFL because he couldn't get a GM job. He left the NFL because he liked working with college kids. You can tell the passion he had with the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
So do your homework, understand where things are going, but don't say unintelligent things like Nagy was ran out of the NFL. He interviewed for 4 or 5 NFL GM jobs. He would be the Jets GM, but he felt like didn't party. I think, to not speak for him, but to, read between the lines, he feels like the OU organization is a better organization, and he has a better ability to make a bigger splash being a college GM than being the next fired GM of the New York Jets.
If I could just jump in here, what I would say is this right here. Just really just keeping it like, purely college, I would just say this. Nagy and BV have a chance in this recruiting, or all these recruiting battles, and to get into some more highly contested battles, if you will. The thing is, right here is there's two things. One thing that's already happened is dominoes fell in your lap, and then also it's just the fact that you got to go and win. Winning cures everything. Winning will have everybody turn up about this program's frowns to smiles, all the rest of those things. But you already have your star quarterback. You're most likely going to have a star defensive player like Cruel, kids like that. These kids are going to be in these group chats. These kids are going to be recruiting. These kids are going to be doing all these things. You have a bunch of kids in that class already. But having your star quarterback and guys like that in there, that's going to be big for us going down the line. You're going to be able to flip the script. So thing is like we said, look, week 2, litmus test, midterm, first final, however you want to spell it out. You got to go send a statement to the nation with Michigan. Okay, it's going to be a lighthearted statement, regardless if you win or whatever the case may be. You need to go and send a statement. Then 2 weeks later, you need to go and send another statement with Auburn. Then after that, you need to go and send another statement to Texas. So the thing is that you have 3 statement games early on in like the first
4 statement games in the second half.
Yeah, and then you have statements that you can make early on. And so the biggest thing is that so long as you're winning those games and you're able to come out on top, whatever the case may be, you have to do that so you can change the narrative right now, because that's what's been negative about us. But thing is that there are a bunch of kids that Nagy is – everything that I'm hearing is like, hey, you do what you need to do this senior year. He cares about senior film, and some people don't care about that. And maybe that's where we've kind of gotten mixed up a bunch in these past couple of years, not only with BV, but maybe with Lincoln as well. We fall in love with these kids, sophomore and junior film, and don't really care too much about what the senior product looks like, So senior film actually matters to this team. And so, to this regime. And so, that's kind of the way it goes. We are just having to kind of figure this out until we actually get football to talk about, where recruiting kind of takes a back step, right? So, that's just my thing. I think that you already have your stars in line for this class. You're just trying to get there to prove it on the field to be more attractive to other potential, future Sooners.
Well, So the issue is first off, a lot of what OU's been getting dinged are mid programs throwing cash out before the 7-1 deadline. Okay, they're just throwing money out. And Pete Nakos on Twitter said the amount of false money being thrown around in NIL right now is absolutely ridiculous. So basically, OU has not been, Nagy's been really negotiating, really assigning values to folks, really telling them, okay, I don't care what your alleged agent is telling you. This isn't true. This is your actual value. And a lot of this has become crashing down to earth this fall when kids realize, the programs they're going to aren't as successful as they thought they were going to be. And the NIL thing is a mess. And if you're, for example, the kid who chose Wisconsin, the wide receiver, I'm sure after 4 weeks of watching Wisconsin not throw the ball and try to ground out 300 yards a game, he might be thinking that the frozen tundra ain't so attractive a place. So OU can go back to him and say, and look, Fickell could be fired. Wisconsin, OU has probably the toughest schedule in the country just by the teams they're playing. Wisconsin maybe has the toughest schedule in the country based upon their actual talent level. I mean, they got nothing at quarterback. They don't have a defense anything close to OU's, and their schedule could knock them about left and right. But I think what we're learning, Nagy is learning some lessons about how college recruiting works. OU wants to be in a position this fall to strike and flip some kids that they really want based upon them having a better season and having things in play. We've been taking some hits on offense because, guys, our offense sucked ass last year. So we don't, if Mateer, Ott, and the boys are kicking ass, then putting up points and we look like the old OU offenses, prior to last year, then, that changes everything. Kids are going to be more receptive. Emmett Jones will be more effective. Bill will be more effective. Joe John Finley may not need to sign anybody. But, Emmett, our wide receiver group last year was so bad. Bauer Sharp was our leading receiver, right?
That's true.
I mean, the guy everyone wanted to run out of town. So basically, the wide receiver group, I think, will rebound. You've got a quarterback everyone thinks that will OU's passing attack will take a big step up, improvement from last year. So, you don't get into some of these mucky fights with these mids if you're 10-2 Oklahoma. You just don't. Your gravitas, everyone's like, well, what are we going to recruit like Georgia? Well, guys, 2 back-to-back national championships hold a lot of sway. The fact they've been the premier program in college football for the last 6 years, it's a little bit of a recruiting advantage. Also, they live in a state that's loaded with talent. Kirby Smart could just recruit the state of Georgia and fill a roster with a top 5 class. OU doesn't have that option. I mean, next year, in-state's going to be incredible. But Georgia's like that every freaking year.
I definitely agree. I mean, it's just one of those things where you just have to we've done several videos trying to break down Nagy, his recruiting style, his philosophies, all these different things. And I think we've made sense of it to the point where it's just one of those things where you have to understand things shift, things change, but at the same time, the narrative still stays the same. They want to get the best player for the best value. And not every time you're going to hit on that, but, for the most part, I think you'll be fine. There are some potential guys in here, meaning that they have a higher ceiling, higher upside. May not be what you want right now, technically, but like I said, again, high ceiling, all the rest of that. But you have guys that you do feel like could come and play right now and could, actually contribute to what's going on. So I think that's the biggest thing. I believe in Nagy thus far. I think recruiting will take care of itself. I think we're going to have a hell of a class. I think we're going to look back and say, hey, this was a really good class because these guys are going to add to what you already have. I think it's just one of those things where you got to see it on the field, to be honest with you.
Well, you look at the 2 offensive linemen, right? Noah Bess and Deacon Schmidt, right? They camped at OU for 2 years. Bill's basically been coaching them for 2 years. He's already seen them. He knows their work ethic. He knows their coachability. He knows their toughness. He knows that they know what they're getting into. It's not like they're going to show up on campus and be like, oh, no, Bill's being mean to me. They already get it. They know what they're signing up for. They're both very talented kids. One could be a center. Best could be a center or a guard. Schmidt, probably a right tackle, could move inside to guard if you needed him to and be a very effective guard. We just need to get a couple more numbers there. OU's got some in previous classes, Chris with the K. BV tried to sort of get things done by September 1st, right? Mm-hmm. Get the majority of the class done by September 1st. Maybe 1 or 2 guys left. Well, I think Nagy's going to push a different strategy where OU's going to have some recruiting homework this fall, right? Find guys on film they like, new offers, senior film offers, because, Nagy's an NFL scout, right? So college senior film is massively important to him in the scouting evaluation process, right? If you don't draft guys just off their junior college film or their sophomore college film, if they're coming out early, you draft them based upon the film you have most recently. So I think with an evaluation staff that is able to take that film eval load off the coaches during the football season, so Nagy and his staff will be able to go back and look at senior film while Brent's coaching games and come back to them and say, guys, I need a quick minute. I need you to review this film, see what I'm seeing, verify what's going on. But we should be pushing for this kid. We should be making a bigger offer to this kid. He's better than he was as a junior. His offseason's been great. We need to up our offer to him because he's no longer X. He's no longer in our ranking system, this number. He's now moved up. So let's make him a bigger offer and let's flip this kid. So I think that's the thing we need to prepare for. OU in the fall has several homework assignments. Number 1, probably a defensive tackle. Number 2, offensive line. Number 3, linebacker. And depending upon how things go in July, maybe wide receiver. But I'll be honest, if Christopher K, if we pick up Jordan Clay and Davion Gross to go with Daniel Odom, that's a pretty stout, kick-ass recruiting class at wide receiver. That's 1 top 50 kid, 2 top 100 kids, 3 kids in the top 250, in the top 150. I don't know how you do much better than that unless you're freaking Ohio State.
Well, I think that people are going to be pleasantly surprised and pleasantly and really pleasant about this Nagy offense. So I think when Nagy gets to show this offense, and when I think this is a year where you see, you could see Mateer take a step in distributing the football to even more people, right? When you pop on some of the film, maybe you're not watching the entire games back, but maybe you're popping in those highlights. You're seeing a lot of Kyle Williams, you're seeing a lot of Meredith, you're seeing, maybe the tight end getting to this play, that play a little bit. Running backs heavily involved in the game, obviously run game and passing game. And you see what Mateer can do with his legs. But I think this is one of the years where, if everything goes right and guys are healthy out there, because you're starting to hear, really good things. Obviously, people are really excited about Elijah Thomas. You can get the Gibsons back, Dion Burks. This could be finally what we get to see.
And Mateer's talking about Jermichael Carter. And
I was going to say Keontae. Yeah, I'm going down the list. Keontae Lewis is finally, his name is starting to get called. It seems like he's healthy. Satania, that's a guy that I'm really excited to see if he could take that next step of showing that he's more than just a special teams guy, more than just a big play guy here and there, that he's a consistent wide receiver and he's a threat out there. And then Jermichael Carter as well, the Josiah kid from Cal, Arizona State, whichever one he's from. These are kids that they could go out there and play. And obviously, when you start looking at our guys that were here last year, Kearney, I think Kearney could take a step. And then I'm really interested to see how they use, a guy like Carrion as well. A guy like Carrion, Raggins as well, KJ Daniels, those guys with the speedsters right there. And then you got that size and the ability to maybe flex him out there, maybe to like a tight end or something like that. There's going to be all types of things, and we're just kind of in that wait and see mode what this offense is going to look like. But I think people are going to be really excited about this team. So barring any crazy injuries or whatever in those first 30 days, I think we'll all be, basically just fingers crossed, chicken foot, rabbit foot, whatever the hell you're keeping as your good luck charm. I think everybody's just hoping that we have a safe and healthy fall camp that is highly competitive, great reps, and a great tune-up for what we hope to be a great season this year.
Yeah, again, it's the Nagy process is just in year one from a recruiting standpoint. We're basically in the first quarter of Nagy doing recruiting, right? And I do think he's learning some lessons. I do think strategically OU needs to be a little, maybe a little, they need to do something where they're less predictable in terms of being outbid by some of these mid schools. Like, need to be a little more unpredictable about how we're doing things. and force the mid schools to have to do things a little differently. At least that's my view on that. I think OU, the class is good. Last class is like 18, 19 right now. Obviously, if you were to pick up Krul, Clay, and Gross, the class, and Jacob Eberhardt. That's a concentration of talent right there that would help the class greatly. And then I think you go into the fall and you need to pick up 5 guys. You've got good recruiting weekends with good home games: Michigan, Auburn, Ole Miss, LSU, and Missouri. I don't know. The Missouri's a great week, a great recruiting weekend. But we know we're not going to get any of this noon kickoff bullshit where we can't get recruits on campus, right?
Right.
Don't have to deal with that. So if
we have a couple. I mean, we have some noon games on the schedule, but some of them are like away games.
They're away games, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so Auburn. We don't know when the Auburn game's going to be, right? But if we beat, let's just put it this way: if we beat Michigan, the Auburn game is going to be a primetime game, more than likely, or at least 3:30. It's not going to be a noon kickoff, right? And if we,
I think that game would be like 2:30, something like that, regardless if you win or not.
So regional kids can easily come up. National kids, could come in the Friday before, depending upon. We've got official visits to use, and we've got official visits to use with guys that dropped off our radar a little bit that we can come back and aggressively attack in terms of recruiting if we're doing well on the field. I mean, again, we wouldn't be losing some of these battles if we had gone 8-4 last year and no one was talking about Brent being on the super hot seat, that this is the make it or break it year for Brent. All that stuff gets wrapped up in negative recruiting, and the mid guys we're going against can use that to negatively recruiting us. Then they puts a little more cash in the coffer, and that's how you lose a wide receiver to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That's it.
With that being said, look, we got a few more minutes on this show. Let's hit a non-OU topic. Topher B has piqued my interest.
Okay.
Bryce Underwood likely is the backup week 2. This is a question because they did go into the portal. Because here's the thing: you hear generational, transcendent. You hear all these different adjectives to describe the kid. You hear that he's up there tearing it up in camp, but they did go get Jake Garcia. They do have the other kid there, but I think it was the Bryce Underwood show. But I think it feels to me that they got Garcia pretty late in the game, but they had another kid that transferred in as well. So it seems to me that if they're going to do that, then it's going to be kind of the same formula they had next year. Probably try to add a little bit more of a passing game to it, but they're going to be running the ball pretty heavy. I think they were going to do that regardless. I think Justice Haynes and a lot of those other kids, I think they're going to do that regardless, which is run the ball, try to come here and punk OU. I think they're going to try to set the tone early and often with that, trying to establish the run game. But, it's one of those things where whoever is going to be the quarterback out there, they're going to have to play a precise and concise game to beat OU, simply because these guys are going to be year 2, year 3 in this BV system, in which, it kind of bodes well for us because BV can call a hell of a game and do what he needs to do on defense, simply because guys are going to know where to be, and you're not necessarily going to have a lot of, bad working parts. You're going to be able to play physical football, and you can play bear, get into those heavy sets like he likes to do, those heavy formations and stuff on defense like he likes to do, especially on those short yardage plays. So it's going to be interesting to see if that's what they want to come do, or if they play, kind of go back to, normal Michigan ball, which is at least more of a balanced offense. But in the last, maybe 3 or 4 years, it's kind of been very run heavy, very physical, very old school. So what's your thoughts about that?
Well, I think obviously they picked up the Garcia kid to strengthen in case Underwood struggles and they got to go to a veteran presence to kind of to ease things up. It's a little bit like last year. I was very confused why OU didn't go to the Thompson kid, to CT's youngest kid, Charles Thompson's kid. I was very confused as to why they didn't go to him to just sort of stabilize things, stop the turnovers, and get things a little more, and get a more of a veteran presence out there. So I think there's a chance, depending upon their first game. I don't think it's a tough game, but if Underwood struggles and Garcia comes in and keeps they run a conservative offense. Underwood's not going to come in here and throw 40 times a game. That's not who Michigan is. That's not their scheme. That's not their offense based upon everything that we see. Student Cowboys is probably right. Casey, maybe his knee was so messed up he couldn't have played. But if Casey was healthy, I would have liked to have seen him in, and I'd like to have seen him see if he could have stabilized things, especially in maybe the Tennessee game and some other games, and give you some passing. There were guys open last year that Arnold just didn't see. Hawkins was just struggling so much being a true freshman. It was, it's kind of, I'm not sure how much you can really judge all that. So I think that's the role he kind of fits in. If Underwood struggles, especially in Norman, if he's overwhelmed with what Brent's doing and he's seeing ghosts out there, to quote Mark Sanchez. It was Mark Sanchez that said that, right? Who saw ghosts. I'm seeing ghosts out there. It was a Jets quarterback. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't Mark Sanchez. But, if he starts seeing ghosts out there, throws a pick six, you have a couple of bad series in a row, then, yeah, I think that's where if you're Sharon Moore, you go to Garcia, have him come in and stabilize things a little bit, and keep the offense from losing the game, because the OU defense is going to be there. If you're Michigan, you want to come into Norman and win like 17-13. That's what you're hoping for, right? Grind it out. It's going to be hot, even with a night game in September. September 7th, I think the game is. That sounds right. It's going to be hot at night. You want to grind a game out. You want to grind OU's defense out. You want to keep possession, and you want to make sure that your new defense has limits the amount of chances Mateer has. Keep the crowd out of the game. I mean, this is where you want to do this, right? You want to win turnover game, win time of possession, and win the rushing game. And that's how you get out of Norman with the win, 24-17, 20-13, something like that. You need your defense to hold OU under 20 points because you do not want Underwood running around throwing the ball all over the place, because he'll throw picks. That's what's going to happen. Michigan's D-line with their backups looked good against Alabama in the bowl game. The question has to be, how motivated was Alabama in that bowl game versus Michigan coming off an Ohio State win? Alabama thought they should have been in the playoff. I think that team basically was going through the motions. And let's remember, OU's defense smashed Alabama's offense. So in Norman. I think we'll see what happens. I think it's more about the leadership they've lost. They're 2 years removed from the Harbaugh regime. I know Sharon Moore is trying to keep everything together, but are those guys going to have that same level of sort of leadership grit that allowed them to keep in games last year when their offense was an absolute disaster? Sure. And Michigan's offense is still not, it's not like Underwood. If you talk about Underwood versus Mateer, there's a massive game 2 of the season is a massive experience advantage for OU, massive execution advantage for OU in terms of level of play and what they've seen. So QB wise, we've talked to OU's seeing 7 brand new starters, Chris.
Yeah.
And Underwood would be one of them. And, if you're Michigan, if you're Sharon Moore, you want to take some deep shots with his big arm, but you don't want him passing the ball 30, 40 times a game. No,
you don't want him passing the ball 30, 40 times a game. I think, our kind of early outlook on that game, really, to me, it really boils down to our front 6, front 7 when we go out there. I mean, gap integrity, stopping the run first and foremost, but gap integrity by our linebackers and meeting them in the hole. I think it's one of those things where you just have to set the tone and let them know, like, hey, this won't be a tug of war. This won't be a battle, back and forth. If you want to run right there in the middle, if you want to do it in any type of inside a zone or any type of I form, playing old school ball, we will meet you, we will hit you, and you will be down on the ground. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. Force them to get deep into their bag as far as, trying to, run those pass plays, and let's go have it, right? I think that's the thing. So
yeah, you want them in 3rd and long, right? That's where their offense couldn't execute last season, right? In 3rd and long, you want to limit the big running plays, and you want to force Underwood on 3rd and long to move the chains. And you want to, those should be punt downs. And you want him to put the ball in risk. You want him to put the ball in play at risk. If Michigan wants to play heavy, that's great, right? Because that means Daniels gets to play the cheetah role.
Yeah.
And he's at 6'4", 240. He's a massive cheetah. So, so Kendall Daniels at cheetah. That's what we want, right? That's the athlete we want. We want to be able to keep him on the field as much as possible. So I think Michigan, maybe they try and spread things out a little bit and try and counter punch with something we haven't seen. But offensively, they were as bad as we were last year. They just didn't have a quarterback giving away games.
It's true.
And they had an easier schedule, much easier schedule. So, and they had a better defense overall, in terms of, the guys they lost to the NFL, that's OU isn't quite there yet on D-line. We may be at the end of this season, we may be saying OU's at that point on defensive line. But, Michigan lost a lot of good guys, lost a lot of talent, and, we'll see where they are. But Underwood, it wouldn't, if Underwood's shaky game 1, it wouldn't shock me, Chris, if Garcia starts the beginning of the OU game, just to allow them to just come in, run some sets, see what it looks like, and then integrate Underwood in after the game gets going. Make sure he's not out there making critical mistakes and turning the ball over. This is what you need to be careful of when you're starting a freshman quarterback. We've seen it all the way back to Troy Aikman in a Sooner jersey against Kansas. We've seen it. We saw it last year with Jackson Arnold and with Hawkins at times, especially in the South Carolina game. It's if you want to take the crowd out, and you want to just try and you want to play this into the 4th quarter in a phone booth. You don't want this to be a wide open game, which doesn't fit anything that you're prepared to do yet offensively.
Heard. Well, people, look, we've been on here for almost an hour, so we gave you recruiting. Talked a little bit about the season, talked about Nagy, talked about gave you a little Michigan as far as just kind of like a little insight of what we're thinking about as far as that is on. Definitely check out Jason tomorrow on that Rise and Grind show. He's going to be on here for a few minutes, has some things he had to get to, but he definitely wanted to jump on. So definitely heard what he says. So rewind this video and go watch that again. Like, subscribe, and share, people. Definitely get those likes up. Definitely get those follows up as well. Follow all our channels. We got Mr. Mason with Sooners 360. Got his Patreon as well. Only a $2 subscription, so definitely go over there to get even more recruiting news. Obviously, follow Jason and the Coach, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast, and then all the podcasts that Jason does. You already know, Horns Down Podcast. I'm here with these guys each week, so for sure, definitely check us out. But with that being said, happy 4th of July. Be safe out there. We will see you soon. Anything big happens over these next couple of days, then we will definitely be back on here for some more fireworks. See you, people.